I'm starting to feel a little bit like Kyle Reese in Terminator. You know what I'm talking about? You know, what day is it? What year? I don't even know anymore. But I'm glad he's in Mando Season 2. I've been having to take things a little carefully. Last night I gave my family a scare as I was puking my guts out, and you know, the family was like, you know, you have the fever. I just had to reveal to them that actually I had just watched that video where all the celebrities sang Imagine. Because what other way to keep celebrities relevant than singing John Lennon's naive classic about having no possessions? I mean, to be honest, we don't care about celebrities here on Schlock. Who am I kidding? Let's get to the Dammocalypse. That's right, we're continuing on with our marathon here, watching nothing but these Jean-Claude flicks, and tonight we're watching him play a tough guy hero with a heart of gold, and it's in a film called, well, to be fair, it depends on what country or territory you're in, but for us isolated Americans, it's called LIONHEART. So yeah, LIONHEART, it was an independent production, which means producers independently funded the project, and then they would sell it off to different countries and different territories, and this is a case where it ended up having a lot of different titles. The film was made by Imperial Entertainment. They did a lot of action, kung fu type schlock stuff. Tarantino actually worked for him for a while. He would call up different video rental places and basically try and sell titles, and it was actually through this that he met Lawrence Bender, the producer, who actually has a cameo in this. He plays kind of an a-hole heckler in this. So, but let's face it, none of this really matters. This isn't why LIONHEART's remembered or anything like that. This is the film where the muscles from Brussels became the buns from Brussels. There's a scene, and we'll get to it, where Van Damme went to his buddy, now directing the film, and said, "Hey man, what do you think if I dropped my towel in this scene?" That's the moment audiences said, Jean-Claude Van Damme that backside. So LIONHEART opens up, and things are getting hot in the city as some poor guy, we don't know who he is, but we do know he gets set on fire by a gang of random thugs, and things aren't looking good for him. Boom, we cut across the globe, and we see Van Damme's part of the French Foreign Legion. He sold his soul to these guys, man. He ultimately finds out his brother's almost dead, and Van Damme says, "I gotta get out of here." So they say no. In fact, they say, "You got a fever." I don't know if they checked him for coronavirus. So they try putting him in Django's hotbox, and he roundhouse kicks his way right out of there. So he sneaks off, finds his way onto a boat, and gets out of there. Unfortunately, we find out that the boat captain's a bit of a scumbag, but it's also fortunate because that just means we get some scenes where Van Damme is shirtless down there in the boiler room, shoveling away. He told him, "I'm taking you to Los Angeles." But then we find out, we're off the coast of New York City. We see those glorious Twin Towers. But what does Van Damme do? He roundhouse kicks his way out of there. And he must be a Doors fan because he goes for a moonlight dive. Because what's 5 miles off the coast of the city that never sleeps for those muscles from Brussels? It's nothing. Now, this section of the film takes place in New York. It's about as New York as Ariana Grande is black. The giveaway is, you know, after stumbling through some of the fakest homeless people I've ever seen. I mean, Ken Burns did not direct that scene. Van Damme is walking through a sea of people, and we happen to see a big Carl's Jr. sign behind him. Any true New Yorker will tell you. And I double-checked with my Queens contact, Sam, and my boy from the Bronx, Gonzi, and they both told me, yeah, there was no Carl's Jr. in the Big Apple in 1990. So Van Damme, the man, comes across an underpass where he finds an underground fight club is going on, and he just kicks the crap out of some poor guy. As we learn that if you don't talk about Fight Club, you get to join Fight Club. So during this sequence, Jean-Claude meets up with a black guy, and he kind of becomes Van Damme's manager. And he brings along Jean-Claude to join the Make America Bleed Again white rich scumbag underground fight circuit. So all of a sudden we're in the lobby high-rise of some building in LA, New York. We got the bounty hunter from X-Files, who's, I don't know, the husband or bodyguard to Walmart brand Sharon Stone, who's trying really hard to be hot, and she actually gives Jean-Claude his nickname, Lionheart, hence the title. So Fight Club starts for real now, and we got Taylor Swift's 1990 doppelganger there, and she's licking blood off her fingers that sprayed onto her from one of the fights. I think it's supposed to be sexy, but it's definitely not. Meanwhile, this other guy in the crowd is all, I can take him to Van Damme. And to be honest, all these white rich scumbags seem a bit closeted, so we're not even sure what he means by that. Anyhow, Jean-Claude, he makes quick work of his opponent. He goes full nutcracker on a guy. And Equate brand Sharon Stone, oh, she's ready to promote Jean-Claude's career full force. Blood sport, more like cuck sport. This leads to a scene where Jean-Claude has to beat up a bunch of guys guarding a phone booth for no apparent reason. It's one of those scenes that would not happen in the day and age of a cell phone, but he wins the fight, and Jean-Claude and his new manager are off to actual LA, and suddenly Discount Sharon Stone, she's back in LA now, which wasn't far of a drive since New York was LA, I guess. But she comes along when Jean-Claude is a little drunk. He's very depressed because he's found out his brother has passed along. So he ends up in her apartment pad. She's working out in an outfit that seems more suited for one of those, bikini barista outfits. This is the scene where we get that original Buns from Brussels shot. Anyhow, now Van Damme the man is needing money. He wants to get his niece a bicycle. He wants to make sure his newly widowed sister-in-law is good to go. So he's back in the Fight Club action. So now we've leveled up. We're in a parking garage, and you remember back in the day when you go to a Sonic, and all the workers there, they'd wear roller skates, and they'd roll out to your car and give you your food, go back, kind of like a George Lucas American Graffiti kind of throwback. Well, after all those guys got laid off, they got a job here. They're all wearing roller skates, rolling around, serving the rich white scumbags. Discount Sharon Stone is there, of course. She's dressed as the dead kid's mom from Jaws now all of a sudden. And then it turns into So I Fought an Axe Murder as Kilt Cameron shows up. He throws Van Damme through a windshield. We're going to need to call up one of those places that'll give you a free Mexican food dinner if you need a replacement. Some punches and roundhouse kicks later. And of course, Van Damme the man has turned Kilt Cameron into haggis. Now, before we know it, Van Damme the man is using his KFC-obsessed manager to secretly give his sister-in-law and niece some money. Meanwhile, Van Damme the man is off fighting the lead singer of Nickelback in a racquetball court because, of course, these rich white scumbags use these racquetball courts for anything but their intended sport. Discount Sharon Stone, she's in another terrible outfit. At some point in this movie, she starts dressing like Randy Macho Man Savage. Anyhow, she's back with the X-Files bounty hunter and has met up with the French Foreign Legion guys. It's all colliding, I'm telling you. And they're watching some bootleg VHS footage of some fight. It looks like Giant Gonzalez and the Iron Sheik from wrestling fame have had a baby, and some rich white scumbags finally found out about it. Now, Giant Gonzalez Sheik shows up with a cat for some reason, because I guess all of a sudden we're in a James Bond picture and we need a supervillain. And Discount Sharon Stone, she's of course there. She's suddenly dressing like a Goodwill version of Rose from the Titanic, complete with the hat. And this all leads to, of course it does, an 80s montage in a 1990 film. Van Damme, Attila, Discount Sharon Stone's terrible wardrobe. No cheat codes, no mercy. So Giant Gonzalez Sheik just beats the ever-loving crap out of Van Damme. It's the first time we see him in any real danger in this film. He's just getting the snot beat out of him. We finally find out why some countries called this wrong bet. Regis Philbin, out of nowhere, starts a chant amongst all the rich white scumbags, and Van Damme, he hears this hype chant, man, and he just roundhouse kicks his way to some Rocky comeback glory. We got some schloskers to give away. We got Best 80s Hero Tough Guy, who's actually a softie, for Van Damme the man, as we not only see him kick butt, but give a ball to a child, not once, but twice. We have the best tournament fighting video game parading as a full-length motion picture. Best all-natural contraceptive for that crotch punch. We have the best reason to go out and get a free curbside Mexican food restaurant dinner with your windshield replacement. Best way to turn spring into summer by lighting yourself on fire. I enjoy Lionheart a lot. I know it's a favorite of my friend Derek, who's one of those guys that came of age in the 80s, so everything 80s is awesome to him. It is a fun flick. It's cheesy in all the best ways. I give this one 3 Winonas and a smirk. It's available, of course, on the Blu-ray. It's on DVD. It's streaming some places. I think it's streaming for free on Amazon Prime right now, but don't quote me on that. But check it out.
Schlock,